and welcome to the debate. My name is Naila Shuja. Now, today we are diving into the high-stakes 2024 U.S. presidential elections. Now, this is between Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. Now, we're going to be exploring key issues such as the Israel-Gaza conflict and various economic policies which are influencing the swing states and the Arab American vote. Now, on the home front, in our second segment, we will be discussing Pakistan's economy, which is seeing a significant shift with the State Bank of Pakistan's surplus rate cut, the single-digit inflation, and a bullish stock market. So join us as we engage in the debate. Now, joining me today is Mr. Farrukh Pitafi, a senior analyst here at PTV World, and Mr. Raja Faisal, who is also a senior analyst here. Now, joining us on Skype is Miss Madiha Masood, who is also a journalist here in Pakistan. Now, we are going to be delving right into she's joining us from the United States of America, which is even more exciting because we are delving into the conversation of the U.S. elections. And speaking of the elections, let's talk a little bit about the swing states, Madiha. I want to get into the nitty-gritties of how Harris and Trump are in the tight races across the swing states and what are the unique strategies that they're playing at.
Actually, the thing is, right now, the election is like neck-to-neck competition because both seems on the same scale. Like on the early voting stage, it was like 49-51%. It was going in between 49 and 51%. But after that, we are seeing that both are on 49%, means both are on the same scale now. Now, ball is in the court of November 5th, the final day. So people will be voting on November 5th, and by the evening, we will be knowing the final result. But as the whole world knows that it's not enough. The public vote is not enough. After this public vote, whomever is going to win, it will be on the one side, but the Congress is going to decide about the next president. So what people are talking about both candidates, people are more in favor of Trump because of his solid plans, which he shared in his debates. On the other side, which we are observing that Kamala is a weak candidate as opponent of Trump, because when it comes to economy, as being an American, economy is everyone's problem because we are dealing with the economic crisis and we are being affected by the financial situations which is being enforced by the government, and government is being run by Democrats. President Biden and Kamala Harris. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris is coming up with those plans which are not suitable for us because we need security, we need ease in our life because what are seen price hike in daily routine, price hike in gas, price hike in groceries, and in everything. So what people are expecting from Trump that he will secure the border and he will do solid implementations on financial situations, which he is, of course, telling to his followers. And they are convinced. On the other hand, a lot of people, of course, from the Democrats, because they are only left with one situation, and that is Kamala Harris. So they are divided. And then the third part is independent, like which we call in easy words, independent. They will decide. They will they are the main cause which will decide who is going to take that presidency in 2025.
All right, so I'm going to redirect this question to Farrukh, and I would love for you to answer this.
Right. Thank you very much, Naila, for the question. I think that at this moment, one of the reasons why you see 50-50 or 49-49 divide, because MSNBC and a couple of other opinion polls have shown that America is right, in the middle. And that is not all. When you talk about the 7 battleground states or swing states, they're also the difference, whosoever is leading, in most cases, the margin is within margin of error. So that would essentially mean that it is dead heat, both are neck and neck. Now, one thing that bothers me, and I think any person who has actually been following polls or who has been part of the poll system would tell you that Nate Silver, one of the leading pollsters, has actually pointed out the point of the problem of herding, where they seem to actually be moving or moving toward generalizations and ignoring outliers. So that is why what you have in opinion polls is this dead heat. It doesn't mean that there is no undercurrent that might be actually deciding what exactly is happening. As was pointed out by Madiha, there are two critical issues that are actually playing in support of Donald Trump. One is economy, particularly inflation. The other one is the southern border, especially because so many people, unregistered or illegal aliens, have actually come to the country. So a lot of people are really worried about that. On the other side, there is a very clever issue or a very serious issue. There used to be a precedent called Roe v. Wade regarding reproductive rights of women, and then it was cancelled through a verdict that was called Dobbs. Since then, there seems to be an undercurrent among women, and there are many women who might be conservative but who are not actually per se pro-life, so to speak, like their husbands and all. So there is this possibility, people keep on projecting, that because of that, many people might be able to vote for Kamala Harris. Now, there's another issue as well, and that is the future of democracy. Donald Trump is not alone. Donald Trump is a very popular guy, and he has been in public sphere for most of my life, right? But the problem is the kind of coalition he has put together. Because of that coalition, what happens is that there is a document, 900-page document called Project 2025, which actually shows you how to dismantle and politicize American bureaucracy and American government. So with that kind of a situation, many people might be pushed to vote for Kamala Harris. Now, of course, in your introduction, you mentioned Arab Muslims, Arab Americans. There is one swing state called Michigan, which is very critical. If you win that, Pennsylvania, you are mostly in the lead. But what happens? In Michigan, there's somewhere around 300,000 Muslim votes, and many of them have actually gone out because of Gaza and supported Donald Trump. I don't know how it actually comes together, because when it comes to pro-Israel, Donald Trump is more pro-Israel than Harris can ever dream to be, because of the past and examples that we have seen. But even then, remember that they are not the only factor. So in most of these cases, both are actually speaking to different people. You spoke about strategy. One strategy is amazing. It is said that at every truck stop, at every petrol pump, in the women lavatories, women have actually gone and put in stick-ons with which they are communicating that even if you are pro-Trump, vote against him if you are a woman, because he believes in policing your body. So there are interventions which are there. But now the intervention on the part of Donald Trump. There seems to be a coalition that is supporting Donald Trump, right? Elon Musk is one example. Jeff Bezos owns a paper, Washington Post, and he actually vetoed their endorsement of Kamala Harris, and then he had to write a piece. Similarly, LA Times has not endorsed. So and Mark Zuckerberg also came on record that there was pressure on them to try to be too neutral and to moderate the public opinion on social media in the past, especially during COVID. So there seems to be women coalition plus, and on the other, billionaire coalition plus. So they are trying to intervene, but we will know what exactly happens. At this moment, the way media, and American media is amazing also, Naila. American media has this habit of actually showing you its right hand and then slapping you with the left. So what they are doing at this moment is they keep on opposing publicly Donald Trump. But what they do, they make him the centerpiece of all the news. When anybody, even if his dark charisma is being projected as the biggest threat, people are going to talk about that person, right? Compared to that, American media does not seem to cover Kamala Harris as well. So in the end, they are also kind of supporting Donald Trump in an indirect method, a negative advertising method. But in the end, it is a very close race. And if there isn't any undercurrent, then there's a possibility. Usually what happens is that there's electoral votes, 538 total electoral votes, which are divided among states. So whosoever actually gets 270, because the dividing line is 269, they win the White House. But this time, if, for example, there's going to be 269, then it goes to first the House and then Senate. And in the Senate, then it is decided which VP, not president, but VP, vice presidential candidate, is going to become the president. So it is a very interesting race. And I just remind everybody that in the series Veep, we had similar kind of storyline. So let's see what happens.
Absolutely. So, Faisal, coming towards you, because Farrukh touched on the Arab and Muslim minority that's present in America. So, regarding Kamala Harris, who's made strong appeals regarding the Arab American voters in Michigan, regarding the Gaza conflict specifically, what will her stance on the Israel-Gaza situation be, and will it be enough to shift the support decisively?
Well, this is very tricky to, of course, suggest what kind of stance she would be having when she becomes president, whether it would be different from while she was vice president or it would remain the same. I mean, there are questions which are being raised against Kamala Harris related to her stance while she was vice president, because under her nose, whatever was taking place in Middle Eastern crisis, it was under her nose and she didn't say anything about it, and she was not empowered enough, and that is why people are raising the questions, what has she done in past and how could she be so different? Very very quickly she would pose a different face, and it would be quite strange, because if somebody says that she couldn't do being a vice president, that too is a joke, because vice president is empowered enough to at least raise a voice for the very youth which she is seeking vote from, and she hasn't, of course, addressed anything related to that. We know how badly mishandled the students were when they were protesting against the menace which has been raised against Gaza and by Israel, and we know who's been supporting Israel throughout. They have been extended a helping hand in this genocide by Genocide Joe, and this is not what I'm addressing him with. Genocide Joe is of course a widely known term which is being used by the American voters for their existing president, and Vice President Kamala did nothing to, of course, stop her president at that time, and what different she would be having to, of course, offer to the people of US. And when we talk about media, earlier I saw Farrukh was highlighting. Farrukh is so right about it, because if we take the example of previous election in which Donald Trump won against Hillary Clinton, we remember that at that time, even at that time, media was all gunned up in the favor of in the favor of Hillary Clinton, but at the same time the result was entirely different. At that time, of course, Trump won, and we know that all the hue and cry which was going on during that time, it did not make any difference. And same is the case now. If we tune into major channels like CNN and all of the other prominent channels of US, you would hardly see anything good about Trump. Rather, it would be all the statements of Kamala Harris, and right at the end there would be a statement related to the cherry-picked statement of Trump that would, of course, help Kamala, and that is what has been going on. And I believe that this is happening just because of one reason, that they believe that as long as they are pushing money towards the news channels, it would create a difference. I think it is entirely a different ball game this time around. This year already has been considered as a year of elections. Throughout the world, wherever the elections were taking place, we know that the major TV channels didn't do any sort of difference in terms of generating vote bank for one of the candidates and hurting the others. It was more of a social media approach, which we have been, of course, looking at. Even in our country as well, it has been seen, the trend which was being followed in our country. That was, of course, social media played the pivotal role, and that actually helped to increase the sort of turnout as well. And that is what I'm expecting, that this time around, majority of the voters in past, we have been seeing that there is a special age group that actually comes out to vote in US elections, and the youth, which has always been considered as the deciding factor in past. A very large number of youth wasn't coming on the ballot boxes and, of course, filling them up. But this time around, it is being considered as very important election. Reason being, people are making each other aware on the social media that you have to come and your vote would matter on the day. And to me, I think this is going to be the decider and the disaster for Kamala. Reason being, the way they mishandled, they harsh handled the American youth on certain issues. And of course, the most prominent issue is Middle Eastern crisis. And overall, if we look at the picture, Trump is someone who's considered, though it has always been said that he is pro-Israel and he is anti-Middle East. I think this is not the case. People consider him pro-Israel just because of one reason, that he was the one who actually came up with the idea of Jerusalem being the capital of Israel. But I believe during his 4 years of being president of US, there were only 1,300 recorded deaths. Well, this is a huge number and we should be sad about it, but still only 1,300 Palestinian people, they were, of course, gunned down by the Israelis. But if you take only 1 year of Kamala Harris being vice president, I would rephrase it. Kamala Harris being the vice president, 45,000, more than 45,000 people of Palestine, they lost their lives in these crises. And there are many more who are unaccounted for because they are missing in the action. Still, nobody knows where they are. So, of course, that number would increase if she is going to be the president once more. That's not me who's saying it. That's the youth. That's the youth on social media, and I'm talking about the US youth. They are claiming it. So they don't want to give a chance to Kamala Harris. And this time around, they believe that Donald Trump is someone who believes in rapid solutions to the conflicts rather than Kamala Harris as vice president and Joe Biden as president. They've been following a sort of policy of lingered on war so that their war or arms industry, it gets flourished, so that their arms industry keeps on getting more and more contract from Israel, and that's how they wanted to run the country. Trump is not of that nature. He believes in quick solutions to the conflict. He believes in quick solution to the Ukrainian crisis, quick solution to the Middle Eastern crisis, and he believes that war must end. Be it, given a bit of a land, but at least he will be saving the people of Palestine. And to me, saving people of Palestine is more important than giving up some land.
Absolutely. So coming to you, Madiha, regarding the campaign promise of Kamala Harris, now I want to get this right, so I'm going to read it from here, that ending suffering in Gaza, bringing home the hostages, ensuring Israel's security. Now, this is the point of concern that I have regarding this whole thing. Supporting the Palestinians' right to dignity, freedom, security, and self-determination. Help me make it make sense. How can these two things be synonymous with each other?
Well, on ground reality, I would say that people are taking these statements as political stunt only. Because by seeing those debates, by seeing the ground reality, as the gentleman explained very well, by the way, I'm way too impressed by him, the way he thoroughly explained the whole picture. And I thoroughly agreed with him. Like, she should be accountable on this, that she served 4 years as vice president. She was part of the team who were taking decisions about everyone. So what she's going to do next 4 years, she has no plans. Whenever she's asked, she always plays smart. She always twists the questions. And this is why uh, this thing and her miserable, way of countering the question, it has harmed her reputation so bad. And when it comes to the youth and Palestine and Gaza situation, yes, I would say that Arab vote and the Arab support is shifted to Donald Trump because in this Democrat government, people were being killed, students were being humiliated, and no one on the ground to listen to them. So this is why the vote is being shifted to Republicans, and people are hoping and expecting that Donald Trump is going to deliver. If he's not going to deliver, he will somehow try to stop the war. That's what people are believing.
All right, so we know that around 78 million Americans have already cast their ballot. And coming to you, Farrukh, I would like to understand how this unprecedented level of early voting has impacted the potential outcome.
Right, and I'm going to actually talk about that as well, but because you have posed this question on Gaza to two of the panelists, I think that I have the right to actually also chip in. First of all, if somebody tells you that Biden government did not do anything at the campuses, let me remind everybody that like in our country, federal government actually does not control police. It is the state government, which is essentially not by the Democrats, but even by Democrats, there is a variation of people. For example, in one state, you might have very openly pro-Israel a Democrat. In the other, Republican might also be equally supportive of Israel. Republican governor. So it is not actually down to the president or the vice president. The second thing is the foreign policy. No, this is what the system says. I mean, I'm sure that our good friends will take out time to read Constitution, and if they have read it, revisit it, because this is how America works. The second thing regarding foreign policy and Kamala Harris, remember American politics rewards or punishes loyalty a lot. Remember, before J.D. Vance became the nominee for VP, there used to be another guy called Mike Pence who was very loyal to Trump, but he was not loyal enough on January 6th that he would actually cancel the electoral votes. So what happens? He's out, but there were slogans on January 6th, hang Mike Pence. So do you think that Kamala Harris would have actually gone against her own president? The VP is only a standby arrangement. It has been added through statute because if the president actually has some kind of difficulty, then there is somebody to step in his shoes. But all the policies are decided by the president, and let us remind ourselves that Joseph Biden wouldn't take any instructions from anybody else because he has foreign policy experience of 50 years. And now, whether it is correct or not, my whole point is that you asked very beautiful question, Naila, and that was, how is it possible to actually get the hostages back, also to ensure dignity of life, sanctity of life in Gaza, and then also ensure security of Israel? Simple. Get rid of one person who's called Benjamin Netanyahu, right? And I think this is the biggest problem. Benjamin Netanyahu has always been more aligned towards Republicans, and he has actually actively shown undermining Obama when he was president by actually going to the joint session of Congress and actually, undermining his authority on Iran deal. Similarly, Netanyahu started this war. I think it was that kind of a thing because he could have actually narrowed down the focus of his war to rescue of the hostages, but he did not. He went for a wild goose chase. Why? Because as long as there is friction in Middle East, it is going to actively undermine the incumbents in America. And he managed to actually do something about it by getting rid of Joseph Biden. Now he's after Kamala Harris. Regarding early votes, in America there are states which allow early votes and also ballot votes as postal ballots also. So one very interesting thing, and if you want to look at the numbers, we are told by the pollsters, because they are following exit polls, that Kamala Harris has a marginal lead, like 0.5%, right, on Donald Trump in early votes. But here's the thing. There are other counterclaims also, but here's the thing. The turnout numbers actually show something very fascinating, and that is more women are voting than men in many states. So what would that amount to? I told you about Dobbs, I told you about Roe v. Wade, so that is a sentiment also. Now, whether it is going to have any kind of consequences, look, remember, these are extraordinary, this is the most extraordinary election in American history. For example, you never had a many times indicted candidate and a person who actually lost an election as a returning candidate, right? That is Donald Trump. But also on the other side, we have only 3-month-old nominee, that is Kamala Harris. Before 3 months, Joseph Biden was heading the ticket. So this is something which is very unique. And then, of course, not to mention the fact that she's a woman of color, and she comes from 2 ancestries, one Caribbean, one South Asian, and amazingly, even in South Asian demographic, especially Indian demographic, there seems to be some, lack of enthusiasm. There seems to be enthusiasm deficit regarding this. That would tell you what kind of what South Asians are. One of their own is planning, especially Indians, but they don't want that. They want the guy who talks about mass deportation, because remember that if Donald Trump has a very different kind of foreign policy, his foreign policy will always be transactional, and which is not wrong, and I am all for that. But you pay America, America will do whatever you like. So who has deeper pockets than India's Modi, or for that matter Israel? They have deep pockets, so what happens? Naturally, he goes after those who are their mark. So who are those marks? Muslims. Simple.
Yeah, excellent. So directing this question towards Faisal, because we spoke greatly about Trump, his assassination attempt, twice, unimaginable. That is, that a former U.S. president and someone of that stature to be tried to be assassinated twice. What kind of impact does this have on his re-election campaign?
I think it would ultimately give him a boost. The reason behind it is that the kind of vote bank, existing vote bank he already had, I mean, the vote bank he has, they always, of course, are sort of, in love with Trump. And if anything happens to Trump, of course, that would matter more to them. That is why we have been seeing that the trajectory shown in terms of, people coming out for his processions, that has been increasing with the passage of time. People were not scared of getting to a place where Trump is going to be shot at or else. But of course, people were coming there more and more, and people in a large number, they came out. One reason that can be, of course, drawn by the sentiment which originally hails from the Republican side, the common supporters of Republicans, they believe that as Trump is anti-deep state of US, that is why he's been subjected to these kind of actions against him. Of course, the assassination attempts twice on him, they are labeling it that, of course, last time around he won the election. They believe he won the election, but US deep state did not allow him to get to the Oval Office, and they stopped him, and that is why we have been seeing that Republicans, they protested against the deep state at that time, and openly, of course, these are the claims which are being made by Republicans plus Donald Trump himself. In his speeches, he's been claiming that when he gets to the office, he already nominated few of the people who he believes are, have been acting at the, of course, indications of the deep state, and he will deal with them. This is what he claims. When he gets to the Oval Office, he will deal with them when he gets to the office. Earlier, of course, Farrukh highlighted a very good point related to how the police works, and then, of course, he went to the vice president, how the vice president is empowered in US. At the same time, he made it a bit easier for me when he said that all the policies are designed by the president. So that means even the policing policies, they are...
No, foreign policy. Foreign policy.
They are...
As a foreign policy is decided...
And rest of the policies as well.
No, policy, domestic policy.
If there is a matter related to foreign policy of US, if people are getting out, including the Jews themselves who are against Israel, if they are coming out and protesting against the government, and protesting against the US as a state, and its stance is foreign policy stance against,
they're within the country,
against their own people, then of course how they are being dealt with, that policy would be, of course, getting out of the Oval Office. And we saw that not a single word in any of the pressers was actually highlighted by the White House, which means that this was the ultimate policy they have been obviously pursuing. And there was another thing Farrukh highlighted, and I'm someone who has always learned from Farrukh, and I always say that from his, of course, articles, I have learned a great deal.
Not from my talk.
Yeah, from your talk as well.
Okay.
Even during this program, I always considered as you are my teacher. There is one thing Farrukh highlighted, and that was related to Bibi, of course, Netanyahu. He wants a person changed in the Oval Office. He is the one who actually wants Trump to get to the Oval Office, and not Biden or Kamala Harris. I think at this hour, if since more than a year since the war started in October 2013, if Biden or Kamala Harris, they were not aware of this intention of Netanyahu, then I don't know who in America would be aware of this intention.
What can they do?
They would have abstained from helping him to win this war. That's what they would have done. If it wasn't for America, if it wasn't for the American arms, the kind of situation we are seeing in Middle East right now, it wouldn't have escalated.
I agree.
If Biden would have pulled out, if Biden wouldn't have been standing with Netanyahu right now, then the situation in Middle East would have been entirely different. But the escalation wouldn't have been there.
Faisal, that would have been a suicide attempt, but that wouldn't have actually won them an election, because lobbying actually works very heavily through money. And who has deeper pockets? Israel has great influence.
They had
in America.
They still have the chances, but they had more chances at that time if they would have stood with the people's voice. Of course, they went against the voice, and they went against all of the country to, of course, help out Netanyahu in his war, in his genocide. I mean, I always say war. War is not the appropriate word. It's the genocide. War is always been fought when there are two armies fighting each other. It's just the armless people and the American arms fighting each other.
Yeah, but just one interruption, and that is Professor Mersheimer has written a book called Israeli Lobby. You just read that book and see what kind of influence they have on Israel, on America, right? America's politics. So I don't think any party that would openly go against Israel could win an election.
Right.
Farrukh, there are $680 million which have been arranged by APAC and its extended hands for Democrats this year. And when
down
it comes
down the ticket,
All
not the price.
All right, gentlemen.
When it comes to Republicans, there was only 400 and some millions that were actually arranged for them. So APAC is all with.
All right, gentlemen.
Just one
with
thing.
Democrats.
You have to know the black money. In America, dark money is also allowed because it is considered under Citizen United as free speech.
All right, gentlemen, we're going off track, but
No, we are not. We are talking about money
I'd like to direct this question to Madiha as well. Now, what's the opinion that you have regarding how Trump has there's an attempted assassination on him twice, and how do you think this is going to impact his race?
You'll have to.
Has helped Donald Trump because he gained sympathy vote from Arabs, from Egyptians, from Chinese, from other, you can say, communities. And Republicans, they love Donald Trump. Whatever he do, they are standing by him. Just like he did a stunt, I would say. He was driving a garbage van and he named both Kamala Harris and Biden that he is taking that garbage away from this country. And of course, this was again answered by Kamala Harris, and she was very upset on this statement. But people, they have decided about their vote. As the other guests were discussing that there is some country and they support one person, they are not supporting the other. If somebody has decided, then they have decided, and the country is going to know within a week that who is going to, head the White House. And chances are bright for Trump, I would say. I can say on behalf of Texas, because it's a red state, and from this state, it's clear that Trump is going to win.
I'm not disputing that it is Donald Trump's election to lose, because anti-incumbency works in that way, right? But my only humble submission is that there are too many nuances, and any emotive appeal to any one side is going to just take us nowhere, because in the end, elections are decided by the voters, and they are not actually revealing too much.
And Naila, I only want somebody in the Oval Office who believes in quick solutions to the war, not the prolonged wars.
Stop, very easy thing is to not stop an aggressor from aggression, and then the war is over, because the other side, the weaker side, goes away. But I just wanted to add one more thing. And earlier he was referring to HRC, right? Hillary Clinton's case. Kamala Harris is not Hillary Clinton. One, she did not have the similar kind of legal problems that Hillary Clinton had. And then when she was asked by Fox News host, Ted Baer, what do you think of Donald Trump's supporters, whether they're stupid? She said she respects all the voters. And this dumpster thing and this garbage thing is something that came out of somewhere else. That was Madison Square Gardens even. So I think that is a totally different wavelength. But Kamala Harris is a stronger candidate than at least Hillary Clinton.
Of course. Now, Madiha, Masood, thank you so much for joining the debate from the United States of America, where the grand U.S. elections between the Democrats and the Republicans, between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, are going to be taking place tomorrow. The polls are going to be open tomorrow, and it is a very exciting match that we are going to be witnessing between the Democrats and the Republicans. With that is the segment of the U.S. elections, and now we're going to be moving on to our second segment, which is the State Bank of Pakistan, which has significantly and drastically cut the policy rate by 250 basis points, exceeding the forecast in the fourth straight easing, meaning that the Monetary Policy Committee has said that the current stance to fit the need of the objective of the price stability on the durable basis by keeping the inflation target in range. further meaning that the State Bank of Pakistan basically slashed the key policy rate by 250 basis points to 15%, adding at least 5% more than the market expectations. So on this, we're going to direct the questions towards starting with Faisal. So what is the entirety of this, and how does this really impact the economy of Pakistan at the moment, and how will it go further beyond this?
Yeah, Naila, this is quite very important for Pakistan right now. Of course, the recent visit of Prime Minister to the Middle Eastern countries, before that, of course, SCO taking place in Pakistan, and, of course, meetings with the very key officials from China, including Prime Minister, of course, and then Russian Prime Minister was in Pakistan as well. Meetups during SCO, they were pivotal, and of course Pakistan standing where of course Pakistan secured the deal with IMF and further strengthened Pakistan's economy, and that is why we are seeing that positive trend on Pakistan's stock exchange, and State Bank is going forward with these kind of decisions. To me, I think when it comes to trust of the investors, I'm not talking about the foreign investors, but the local investors as well, domestic investors. It has increased, and I believe with these kind of steps forward, this would strengthen more and more trust of the investors, and eventually the money which we are not seeing in the markets right now, that money would pour into the markets, and eventually that would be part of our economy in the shape of our production getting increased, and further getting that money into the market would further strengthen Pakistan's economy. And I believe that in coming months and years, Pakistan would be having a very positive trend related to Pakistan's economy.
Absolutely. Now, Farrukh, do you think that this is risky, or is this a much needed initiative at this time?
Naila, we have been actually openly advocating for bringing down the policy rate, because whenever banks are going to tell you to pay you more interest on your money, why would you actually bring money to the market and start actually investing in something that is risky? So now, the only reason, there are two reasons why you keep a policy rate high. One is inflation, which was actually at one point it was touching 30-40%. Then at the time when we reached 22% policy rate, at that time inflation had also come into 20s, right? And that is why you had to actually keep it high, because if you bring down the interest rates, then inflation can skyrocket. The second thing was that during PTI's time at least, there was current account deficit was really mushrooming because of that, and that is the structure of your economy. That if you start growing, what happens is that you have to import more. When you import more, what happens is dollar leaves the country. When dollar leaves the country, the government has a problem of paying, in dollar to the foreign, stakeholders, especially given that Pakistan has to pay back so much loan as well. So at that time, it was also a good idea, or at least it was deemed by some to entertain some hot money. So the people who brought in so many dollars to get so much profit, and that actually worked at that time. But now, because you have actually brought down interest, and the inflation is, as you pointed out, in single digit, and even IMF is saying that it is going to further come down. Because of that, what happens is that there are chances of economic activity. When the government of Pakistan is not the biggest borrower from banks, and then private sector can also borrow from them, and then of course economic activity starts. It has two aspects. On one side, it can add to growth, but it can also add to the idea of trickle down. More jobs are created, more people can be engaged, and with that things start improving. So at this moment, the government's all vitals are very fundamentals of economy are doing great. I mean, relatively, because we can't actually compare ourselves to, say, America or for that matter, India or any other country. But our economics is looking up. This is the country, Naila. 2 years ago, we were almost left for dead, and we were being told that after Sri Lanka, you are going to default. Pakistan did not default. Pakistan is working with IMF also. Pakistan's economic policy, fiscal belt tightening has all been going forward. And in that situation, now policy rate coming down, I hope it comes down further and it comes down to a single digit. Once it does, then the economy will really, really, really grow very fast.
Absolutely. So this is the debate, and you heard it here at the studios of PTV World, where we talked about the U.S. elections, and we spoke about how the State Bank of Pakistan has, cut the policy rate by 250 basis points, which is exciting news for all the businessmen and the investors here and abroad. And it was a heated discussion on the U.S. elections, and we would like to thank our guest, Madiha Masood, who joined us from the United States of America for the heated debate, and Farrukh Pitafi and Faisal. And I hope it was an entertaining and most importantly an informative session here at the debate. My name is Naila. Shuja. Take care.